since we have a quorum. So can we have an approval of today's agenda? Terrific. How about the minutes? Any corrections, additions?
Yeah, I just want to note, I don't believe we actually approved the April minutes. Trudy had asked for a second to look at them, and then we never got back to them, so that's why there's two of them on.
Yes, we did.
Oh, we did? Okay.
I did. I was the second motion.
You mean you seconded it?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was good fruit, but Trudy came in late. I
Okay.
did read the video, and I look at the
Didn't we
minutes.
then suspend
I
approval?
thought we suspended, I thought we
pending-
suspended.
That's what I thought.
I think we suspended, and why don't we just, it would not hurt to approve them again, if no one has any objection.
Seeing no objections, can we have an approval of the April minutes?
I make a motion for April and today's minutes.
I think we did today's already, but we can do that again as well. We'll just keep doing it till we get it right. Okay. The big news, obviously, today is the MTA has a new chair. Late yesterday, on the last day of the state legislative session, Governor Cuomo nominated Joe Lhota as chairman of MTA and sent the nomination to the state Senate for its consideration. The Senate Finance Committee held a confirmation hearing where Mr. Lhota appeared via Skype, and by the close of the session, around midnight, he was confirmed as MTA chairman. You may recall Mr. Lhota served as chairman from October 2011 to December 2012, when he resigned to pursue a campaign for mayor. That was after the success of the Superstorm Sandy repair efforts. Mr. Lhota does not intend to be a full-time chairman, but will have an executive director to handle the day-to-day operation of the MTA. I don't think that was approved by the legislature, though, was it? Splitting the job?
He said it in the confirmation hearing.
I heard that, but I
did
didn't.
say it in the confirmation hearing. I think he can hire anybody he wants to do anything they want and still hold the CEO title, I guess.
Yeah. At the end of May, Ellen and Bill, along with other transit advocates, were briefed by New York City Transit staff on service plans for the upcoming L line shutdown. New York City Transit and the city continue to work on plans to provide alternative transportation to replace service between Brooklyn and Manhattan, as well as within Manhattan. Transit will soon be holding another set of community consultations on the L line plan and will be continuing to refine bus, ferry, and subway alternatives to L service. Also at this meeting, New York City Transit gave the advocates a first look at plans to streamline Staten Island Express bus service. These plans grew out of the Staten Island bus study on which we had a presentation several months ago. The changes will focus on streamlining the Staten Island Express bus network, shortening and straightening routes, and reducing travel within both. Well, I think you mean to say reducing travel time, not reducing travel, right?
Well, the amount of travel. They're actually cutting back on the amount of mileage they're doing in Staten Island.
Yeah, but not reducing travel per se.
Okay. Well.
But anyway, within both Staten Island and Manhattan, because you would actually have to cut buses to reduce travel.
Yeah,
We're not doing that. Okay.
The length of the
length of
trip.
trips. It is hoped that by reducing the amount of driving that express buses do at other ends of the routes, transit can not only reduce riders' travel times, but provide more trips within the existing number of buses and operators. Work on redesigning Staten Island's local bus network will follow. New York City Transit announced it has started implementing a 6-point plan to improve subway service. This plan targets causes of subway delays such as track and signal problems, sick passengers, and police activity, subway car equipment failures, passenger loading and unloading, and bottlenecks at critical merge points in the system. The service improvement plan will begin on the 8th Avenue corridor on the A, C, and E lines from 125th Street to Fulton Street, as well as the key Bronx hubs of 149th Street, Grand Concourse, and 3rd Avenue, 138th Street. If you think that it's really a 5-point plan, I think you're correct. The sixth point in the plan is to split the jobs of MTA chair and executive director, and how that improves subway service is beyond me. The service improvement plan will be rolled out in phases over the last 6 months of this year. The first point, reorganizing MTA leadership, is outside of the control of the MTA, as it is an issue for the governor and the state legislature, who have now adjourned. The second point addresses the need for new subway cars and improved subway car maintenance through expediting the delivery of 300 R179 cars and accelerating the delivery of 450 R211 cars. To improve maintenance, actually, they haven't even picked a vendor on that 211 yet, so you can expedite delivery, but you have to pick somebody first.
They're
Yeah.
going to have to accelerate a lot then.
Yeah. To improve maintenance, New York City Transit will consult with the car's manufacturers, add inspectors, and shift resources to ensure that all cars are inspected before leaving the yard. This initiative will also focus on proactively replacing car components before they fail, looking mostly at the doors, heating and air conditioning, and master controllers. The third point of the plan deals with tracks and signals through a new preventive maintenance program, an initiative to reduce response time to failures when they occur, a focus on installing continuous welded rail to reduce potential points of failure, and increased effectiveness of track cleaning to reduce track fires. Some of this has been ongoing. The plan's fourth point involves reducing delays from sick passengers and law enforcement activity by placing emergency medical technicians in the system in 5 places and increasing availability of law enforcement personnel at key stations on the corridor to deter and address unruly behavior. The fifth point of the plan involves streamlining passenger loading and unloading and reducing trains' dwell time in stations. Excess dwell time will be targeted through better communication to riders of information about less crowded areas within stations. That'll go over really well. Less crowded areas within stations and on arriving trains, as well as improving wayfinding to promote more even loading. They have platform controllers now. I have seen them try to move people along the platform. This is New York. It doesn't always go over so well. Most people, anyway, go to the point on the platform where they know their exit is going to be on their destination station. That's really what most people do. The final point is reducing system bottlenecks through the use of experienced, dedicated service managers and improved technologies to actively manage train movements and move trains more efficiently through hub merge points. I know the merge points that they're going to look at are south of 59th Street, south of West 4th Street, and the 2 Bronx ones, 149th Grand Concourse. I don't think 138th 3rd Avenue is, I think 138th Grand Concourse would be a much better place to concentrate. I think that's a bigger bottleneck than 3rd Avenue, 138th Street, to be honest, but I'll address that with Winton, or with Darrell. The Sutter Avenue, Rutland Road, and Junius Street 3-line stations have reopened for service in both directions after major renovations. Work that was done included rehab platforms, including tactile warning strips, lighting, mezzanine walls, and doors and windows. This brings to an end elevated closings for the rehab of 7 3-line stations in Brooklyn. Some work still needs to be done on the new Lotz Avenue station, which was not closed during construction. And obviously, Junius Street is going to take on added importance during the L-line shutdown when a free transfer will be instituted from the L-line Livonia Avenue station to Junius on the 3. However, in the capital program, a full-time enclosed free transfer is being constructed, so that's very good. While it doesn't directly affect New York City Transit ops, well, it does sort of. Amtrak will be undertaking major repairs on Penn Station beginning July 8 and continuing through September 1. The repairs will close 3 tracks in Penn Station at a time and requires each of the 3 railroads using the facility to modify their rush hour schedules. Some of these changes involve ending trains at alternate terminals such as Atlantic Terminal, Jamaica, Long Island City, and Hunters Point Avenue, in the case of the Long Island Railroad. The MTA will be providing Long Island riders with free transfers to subway service at several points, including Atlantic Terminal, Jamaica, and the Hunters Point Avenue station. Interestingly, not Woodside, though, during the morning rush hour, and reducing fares for those who choose to travel to Atlantic Terminal and Hunters Point Avenue during the repair period. I'll talk more about that during the board report. Obviously, these changes will impact subway service, with additional riders boarding already crowded subway trains from Brooklyn and Queens to travel to destinations in Manhattan. The Department of Subways will be making some service changes designed to provide additional capacity to accommodate Long Island Railroad riders traveling to and from Brooklyn and Queens terminals. We may also notice some other impacts on the transit system, such as the demand for subway and bus trips to and from Penn State. Penn Station will be reduced by reduced Long Island Railroad service. There could even be impacts elsewhere as Amtrak is shifting 6 peak-hour trains to Grand Central for the construction period, Empire Service trains, that is. The PATH system is adding additional service to accommodate new riders, and we could see some shifts in ridership on New York Transit as some additional New Jersey Transit commuters now arrive at PATH stations in Manhattan, where they used to arrive at Penn. We'll be holding our regular July committee meeting next month, and in August we have our traditional members-only field trip to, and yet unannounced.
We don't know yet. We don't know yet. We're working on at least one place right now, and I'm sorry. We are working on one spot, and we have to trying to get an answer on whether they will actually accommodate us. But we'll have something. We'll come up with something interesting.
Yeah. That's what we're going to come up with.
It's a manufacturing facility. I'll say that.
A plant in Tokyo, maybe?
The home office.
Oh, well, yeah, I know. Yonkers, yeah. So, yeah, Ken?
Yeah, quick question. To remind us why they're getting 2 kinds of new stock instead of just one, the 179s
Sure.
or 211s?
The 179s are going to replace the R32s and the R42s, and the R211s are going to replace all the R46 fleet.
Why? Why isn't there one best rolling stock for every place, for every route?
I think it has to do with the routes they're running on and the length of the cars, and the governor has insisted that the R211 fleet come with a group of open gangway cars in the initial order, and that is not the case for the R179s.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, there's also the matter that the 179s are so far delayed. They should have already been.
They
here.
should have been here, yeah. Thanks to Bombardier. So, yes, Sharon.
If we get them earlier, do we have to pay for them earlier? I mean, do we have the money? Okay,
There was already
Okay.
liquidated damages for being late.
okay, and is the L going to run in Manhattan?
No.
It's not the entire
It's
thing?
going to run from Rockaway Parkway to Bedford Avenue. Oh, I heard it was going to go to Bedford.
So it won't run from Second Avenue to,
Well, it doesn't go to Second now. It goes first and
or
third.
whatever
Yeah.
it is?
So, yes,
Andrew, according to the proposal, what it has, unless they change it on the website, this back fee on this thing.
sounds fine.
No, it's coming from here. They said the last stop of the L trains would be Lorimer Street because the connection of the G train and the shuttle bus spaces, there's room there. Bedford Avenue does have no room, and Bedford Avenue is supposed to be reconstruction because of the
Yeah,
elevator.
there will be an additional entrance added to Bedford, so
Yeah.
you may be right about Lorimer, although I did hear Bedford on one of the...
Because I can tell you, when they showed us the presentation last time we were here, they said Bedford and First Avenue
They're
is
getting
getting
major-
a whole new...
That is true.
So, I'm sorry to have to cut that, but I'm just telling you, because I remember, because Edith and I are very pleased to see accessible station over there.
No, the Driggs Avenue end of Bedford will be made accessible, and the Avenue A end of First Avenue will be made, so that's really good.
Because, I have to keep track of that L line, because the borough president is already saying, at least I could trust someone like this. I'm like, thank you.
So, obviously, the big news is the return of Joe Loda as chairman. As you heard from the chair's report, it's not a full-time chair, so he will need to have a really good executive director to carry out the day-to-day operations. Joe was an excellent manager when he was here. Obviously, another big piece of news was 2 days ago's announcement of the governor trying to get uber control, no pun intended there, of the board by having 2 additional people and having the designated chair have 2 votes instead of 1. There was major discussion of that at yesterday's board meeting, and with the exception of one of the governor's new appointees, pretty much there was negative talk about that power grab, and for people that were actually appointed by the governor. So that was a very interesting turn of events. Obviously, the legislature adjourned, and that did not happen. So There is going to be, as you heard, a discount for Long Islanders whose trains are diverted. I asked how this would be implemented on the ticket machines, and Ronnie Haycom told us that for the period of the Amtrak work, Long Island City, Hunters Point Avenue, and Atlantic Terminal are now going to be designated Zone 2 instead of Zone 1, and that's how the machine will know where your destination is and what you will be charged. If you're still buying a Penn station, if you're still on a train that goes to Penn, you will be charged the regular rate, but you will get a discount on the other ones. Commissioner Pally thought that everybody should get a discount, that this pitted Long Island Railroad rider against Long Island Railroad rider, but that did not happen. So the discount will apply. One really good piece of news, considering the Clark Street tube work that is going on every weekend now until next spring, is that the new South Ferry Terminal is likely to be reopened by the end of this month, which will allow number 2 trains to terminate at South Ferry. Number 3 trains will terminate at 14th Street, and ones can still terminate at South Ferry because it's a bigger terminal. It's a major terminal compared to the Loop. So that should be back in service by the end of the month. This month. Yeah, this month.
It's very,
Yeah.
it's very close.
It's very close.
It's very close. I've looked into it a little bit.
Cedric Fulton has been named the new president of Bridges and Tunnels. So Tim Mulligan, who was acting president of Bridges and Tunnels, will go back to transit when this happens. There are some new board members that I'm sure everybody has noticed. Scott Reckler is one of the governor's new appointees, who is a real estate person who has major holdings on Long Island and was also one of the governor's Port Authority appointments. Our own Randy Glucksman has replaced Neil Zuckerman as the Metro North Commuter Council Chair, writer representative, and the last one, actually, he hasn't been officially named, but Carl Weisbrod is the mayor's 4th board appointment, and everybody remembers him from the Planning Commission, I am sure. I understand he's going to be... He wasn't yet, interestingly enough, and they tell me that it's going to happen in July, and I don't know how that's going to happen with the legislature gone, unless they're coming back for something that we don't know about. So it's a pretty full complement of board members now, and needless to say, and it's not really good for riders, the mayor's and the governor's people sort of are in camps now, and you can see this during the discussions, you can see this during other things, and we'll see how that plays out. But I was just talking to Bob Ferran, and we were discussing the meeting, and when you're appointed to the board, my view is, and even Mitch Pally said yesterday, I may be a Suffolk County representative, but I'm here to represent people from all over the region. I'm not a regional representative. I'm, a writer. I'm looking out for the entire region, and I would hope that that's what everybody else does. But we will see. Let's see, what else do I have from the board? South Ferry, B&T. That's pretty much all I have for the board report. It was the longest board meeting that I have experienced since I've been observing these things, and I've been on since 2002. This went over 4 hours. Now, there was a sizable public speaking contingent on the subject of accessoride, as there was the previous month. Everybody got heard. The board took a very, very big interest in accessoride. They asked for benchmarks. Darrell Irick and Steve Lopiano heard this loud and clear. There will be lots of changes to the accessoride program, including undercover riders, to make sure that that the companies that we engage and pay to perform these accessoride are doing the job correctly. Some of the speakers told horrific stories about being insulted, sexually harassed, delayed while they pick up somebody's girlfriend. I mean, the horror stories yesterday were amazing for accessoride. just amazing. And the fact that you should have to go out in all weather and wait for a half hour, that in this day and age, we can't tell people when their car is like a few blocks away, you can come out now, or, so there's going to be an app, there's going to be an e-app, and I asked how many people are eligible to use this e-app, and almost 50% of the total Access-a-Ride population can use this app. And so we hope that'll make things better. But this is something that the board is really going to watch, and we're going to get periodic updates on. Access-a-Ride, as it currently is not working well, as everybody knows. Chris?
Unfortunately, I couldn't be there, but the one thing I'll say this is...
Edith was there.
I know Edith was there, and she knew I couldn't be there. But the thing is, with the Access-a-Ride, and I agree with you, when you heard those stories, yes, but there is a lot more stories out there, because there are times they claim the Access-a-Ride's there in five minutes. Instead of that 5 minutes, it's an hour. And you're waiting outside in the cold. I don't think, they need to really make it clear to them, because some people, and I'll be honest with you, don't have cell phones, number one. And the thing is if a person lives on, let's say, the 15th floor, you know, and sometimes there are like maybe 2 or 3 elevators, you got to give them some time to get down, and you're not. You know, it's like, for them, it's 5 minutes. For them, it's like 5 seconds.
And there's really arcane routes that sometimes you're subjected to. Your destination is Midtown or downtown, and you've got to go to Midtown and then go downtown instead of the more direct route.
Yes, and
Some people were saying they're sometimes 2 hours late for work. What employer is going to put up with that on a regular basis?
I'm not saying you're wrong, and I know, Carol, you want to vouch on something you were going to say?
Just that the route, even with GPS, the stories about people going from Queens to the Bronx to get to NYU hospital is just inexcusable. That they go so out of the way, you know, to pick somebody else up.
It makes the service worthless for a lot of people.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I was just going to mention, Steve Lopiano actually said, you know, that it was, that the whole concept of Access-a-Ride was flawed from the beginning, and that he was going to try to restructure things to get it to work a lot better. And I think that's, you know, that's part of that, the dispatching, where you try to put as many people on a van as you can, even if they're in entirely different boroughs and require
that's
a 3-hour trip to make them. I also just wanted to clarify, Carl Weisbrod, at least according to the Senate Twitter feed, Carl actually was confirmed.
Oh, because when he was seated yesterday,
He may have not taken the oath of office.
Oh, that may have been it.
That may have been it, because they have to take the oath. They have to take an oath before they.
I mean, I couldn't see
Since he was-
how he could be confirmed in July, so that makes sense.
Yeah. According to the Senate Twitter feed, they actually did confirm him.
Does it say what time?
It was around midnight. It was because I looked at it at 9 o'clock this morning, and he said the Twitter feed is usually pretty contemporaneous, and it said 9 hours ago.
Round Midnight is a very good song.
Yes,
you know
it
that.
is.
Oh,
It is.
Yeah.
It's a good album
Yeah,
too.
excellent. Yeah, Bradley?
I just had a question on the Access-a-Ride. Why is only 50% of the Access-a-Ride population,
Eligible for the e-app?
yeah,
It's the kind of service that they use, and that they're computer literate, and that they're of a certain age, and all of that kind of thing. For some reason, there's a feeling that if you're over 60-something, you're not computer literate, you don't use apps, you don't use smartphones, and that sort of thing, which is I don't know why that's thought of. I don't think that's the case, but maybe it is. I'm over that age, and I'm certainly.
Andrew, as I said earlier, some people don't have cell phones because it's also not easy for them to understand our technology. And the problem is with Access-a-Ride is it doesn't matter if they use a laptop, computer, or even a cell phone. The bottom line is it's with an app, you have to teach them how to use the app, just like you're teaching the bus apps in New York City. The one thing is like, if I wait downstairs for the M55 and it's supposed to be coming 2 minutes, it comes out to 5 minutes. That's 2 long minutes I ever seen. So
Right, well,
the
but
thing is-
you can use the fixed route system, that's the difference.
That's me,
Yeah.
but other people can't. And,
Right.
and the one thing, it's got to be more friendly. If I know Edith mentioned this yesterday, because I did see the board on the video,
But even if you don't have a cell phone, you have a home phone most likely, and you should be called when your ride is nearby. You shouldn't have to be out in,
65% don't get calls.
I
And
understand
I'm going to
that.
be truthful.
I understand. Put your mic on.
Because your Empire, you mentioned Empire. When you say pink hours, are we talking about only the weekdays that
Weekdays.
Empire only going to Grand Central?
Yes, and in fact, Amtrak is moving away from printed timetables altogether, as their person who was here with us
Yeah,
told
I
us.
spoke to him.
So every one of their trains is a reserved train on the Empire service. So when you reserve that train,
Yeah.
you will see if it's going to Penn or Grand Central. Pretty much the New York Albany trains
Yes.
that travel in the rush to get you,
I travel on
those
it,
are the
so I
ones
know.
that are going to be rerouted to Grand Central.
It's going to be a drop easy because on.
It's
this-
3 round trips.
Yeah, because when I asked that, because I know the disability and the senior price, or even the ticket, they still get reserved, and it's gotten a little better, but now, we got a prayer if the Grand Central elevator will be working on the 4, 5, and 6, and as well as the 7. That's the one thing, and we gotta make it clear that it has to be clean a little bit.
Speaking of the 7, I asked, when you put all these additional people at Hunters Point Avenue, and CBTC is not yet live until the end of this year on the 7 line, how are you going to fit in extra trains on the 7? And they told me they're going to short-turn some and start some, I guess, at Queensboro Plaza, and then they'll go at Queensboro Plaza, Court Square, Hunters Point, Vernon Jackson, and then, I don't know. They're not going to run them all the way empty from Flushing, so they're going to turn them somewhere, or even from the Willits, from the Corona Yard. They're going to turn them somewhere shy of that. Yeah, I don't really know, but
There are going to be people out in eastern Queens that are not going to be very pleased, let's put it that way.
yes, yes. Bill, do you want to add something? Or?
Oh, no.
Oh,
no,
okay.
no, that was all
Okay.
I had to say.
So that is it for all of the news. I am sure there's going to be a lot more once the Amtrak work starts. Believe it, I don't know if everybody gets this. I was surprised to see this. There was somebody on Long Island who put together an amazing chart, color-coded even, about what trains are canceled, what trains are rerouted to Atlantic Terminal or Hunters Point or Long Island City. It is, you saw this, Bill. Do you know the name of the person who did this?
Patrick, and I can't remember his last name off the top of my head, but he's a physician who works in emergency medicine and lives out on the East End, and does this stuff as a hobby. And,
Calls it Long Island Railroad Today.
Yeah, the LIRR Today, and if anybody wants it, I can send he asks that it not be redistributed, but you can just send an email to his
Well, if anyone's
address,
interested,
and
Bill-
we'll give you
Bill
the
that.
link. We'll
Yeah.
give you the link and let me know. But yeah, he's the only thing I'll say about that is the one thing he didn't account for is that the ridership is a little bit lower in the summer generally,
Yes.
Rush
Yes.
hour, and he used the ridership book numbers, which tend to be about the peak.
Okay, yeah.
Did Scott look at the study on Staten Island and the changes in the buses? Has he had any chance?
He hasn't communicated that.
Yeah, I think see, I'm trying to remember if that was the thing I said. I know I sent him something recently, and I can't remember if I think I may have sent him the presentation. I can't recall though. He did go to some of the community meetings. I know he was at those.
As far as Freedom Ticket goes, I just learned this morning that they're going to wait and see how the Penn Station work goes before the pilot would begin. So let's hope that the work in Penn Station goes according to plan and they are done by September 1, because we really would like to see that. And even Commissioner Pally mentioned it in passing yesterday that there are things that would improve the use of the railroad in southeastern Queens, and he would like to see it. So we're waiting to see how the Penn Station work goes.
We actually get a lot of love from the board. Ira mentioned it yesterday,
Yeah.
Freedom Ticket,
Yeah.
Mitch, Polly often mentions it.
Yep. And I think Commissioner Trottenberg is also very interested in it. So, yeah, so let's go to, before we get to our speaker, is there any old business that people would like to bring up? Go ahead.
Have we heard back on those ridership statistics for Second Avenue?
That's the subject of today.
That's actually what we're hearing today.
Yeah, no, okay, but separately, have they written to you, or?
No.
So you haven't seen what the presentation's gonna be?
I have not.
Okay.
Chris?
One thing, I hope you have an update on anything about the buses. Bus complaints, because, we did put it in, and I know Edith has the same issue as Washington Heights. I have the same issue that I already put in, but, it's kind of strange, you're not hearing anything back from them.
We submitted all of those comments after the last meeting, and
Yeah.
you have not received anything.
I haven't received anything.
I can say,
Back on
I am
the,
sure the bus and everybody else here have been a little crazed in the past month. It has not been the normal month.
Especially, I hope they're gonna watch that bus that went backwards yesterday on the news.
Yeah, that Q58.
Yes, and I was
not
right.
good. That was not good.
Yeah, the only thing I'm concerned about, there's 3 mics on, that's why, sorry. The concern is that it's not just that bus having a problem, but, you look in bus time, there's been a lot of issues with buses, and they claim they're gonna do something. I have not seen, forgive when I say this, and I know Edith has said the same thing, I'm gonna say this, is for Brooklyn only, right now. I have seen a lot of waiting times for buses, like Avenue U, 20 to 35 minutes, sometimes an hour on the B1. Forget about under the train vessel between. Yes, and I have put the complaint in. I have, but the problem is I have seen absolutely nothing being done. This is the beach season. The 36, the 1 they have to go to Manhattan Beach. They park their bus there. Once they park their bus, it's a 30-minute, it's like they're not moving their schedule. On a weekday, when it comes college season, it's a miracle you see them moving. It's a miracle that the 68 bus, which is getting a good amount of ridership. Oh, Ken, turn off your mic?
No, I'm gonna
Okay, I got it.
I'm going to give you a different mic. I don't like doing that.
This one? You want me? Is this one better? Okay.
Let me see if shut this off.
Is this better? Okay. As I was saying before, this is the beach season. They should be buses, moving along. I have not seen, it's like a miracle. Like at 86th Street and 4th, you see 2 buses resting in their position. At 87th and 4th, they're not moving. No, I have not seen a dispatcher. The one time I did see a dispatcher was during college season, but it was amazing. The way they discharged the buses on the B1, it's supposed to end at the circle, they dropped them off almost 2 stops behind, almost near Ocean Avenue, and that's not the last stop of the 1. They're not dropping customers off safety. There are so much safety issues on these buses. Like the other day, I'm getting off the B3 at Ocean Parkway. Instead of the bus near the sidewalk, it's almost near the middle of the street, and a car almost hit me. Not just me, but 2 seniors, and yes, my mother as well. It's getting to be a hassle. It's like the drivers have their own rules, dispatcher has their own rules, and bus division has their own rules.
It's all happening on buses that are emanating from the same depot, or
Yes.
just different depots?
I'm going to say the ones I mentioned now are Elmer Park, which is the 1, the 36, and the 3. I never see a problem with the 68 because at least they know where to stop and position. But there is times, unfortunately, I have to say this, the 82 bus did stop in the middle of the street. couple of times with no cars or truck in the bus stop. It is an issue.
All right, now that I know that it's that depot, I can address that a little bit with
And the main thing is they need to train the
With Steve
drivers on the
Vitale.
express bus about the lift, because the wheelchairs have complained, and the borough president's office is very upset about this.
I mean, I'm getting bus complaints from, remember Beverly, our own Beverly Dolinsky?
Yeah,
She has
she's the one.
she has tried to take the M10, which is advertised as beginning at 57th and 8th, to head north, and it's going empty. It's only picking people up Columbus Circle and further north, and it's advertised as going to 57th Street, so I've put in that complaint for her. In addition, I got a complaint from folks around the Museum of Natural History
Yeah.
that the tour buses are taking up city bus stops and people cannot access those buses.
And
They're
as well as-
bypassing the museum stops.
And at trucks, they're blocking in the bus stop too. And I have spoken to Community Board 15, it's already having issues with Kings Highway.
I guess there's just an echo emanating from you. It's not the mic.
Well,
It's you.
well, at least Stuart can hear me, but I'm doing the best I can. The only thing
Keep it
is
away
that-
like you have it now. It's fine.
Yeah, the main issue is, Andrew, anywhere you go, you and I discussed this at the meeting, that DOT has those traffic enforcers. They claim they're supposed to ticket them when they're at the bus stop. I'm gonna be straight with you. None have done, absolutely. When the truck is stuck in the middle of the street, they do nothing.
Well,
DOT has turned over traffic enforcement to the NYPD, so they are not,
there was talk of enforcement at the board yesterday because it's also affecting a lot of other, it's affecting Accessoride, it's affecting buses, it's affecting everybody. And Commissioner Trottenberg mentioned that, so,
I got a question over on this side.
yeah.
My wife was told yesterday by a bus driver who didn't want to pull into the bus stop that they are required to park and stop in a straight line, so they couldn't bring the front of the bus closer to the station.
This is an Arctic or a non-Arctic?
It was on Madison Avenue, it's a non-Arctic.
Non-Arctic.
Is that a rule? Has anybody?
I see her. Well, can Bert finish, please?
No, thank you. No, is that a rule? Thank you. Is that a rule or is it not? Or is it just driver's rule?
What was she told?
That he has to park straight. He cannot,
If there's not room for them to pull in and be straight, they will not do it. Yes, parallel to the curb.
No, excuse me, that's not it. The issue is they will not pull in at all to the curb. Again, this is a recurrent problem.
That's not what I'm told.
I understand what you're told, and then talking about what I'm told as I'm left sitting on the sidewalk.
You're told by the bus operator?
By the dress operator, he can't pull in. If there's anything blocking him as he's approaching, even all the way at the corner,
That's not at odds with what I said.
I agree with you, and I was out in the rain for over half an hour, in the pouring rain, 2 weeks ago from today. Stephanie ended up having to mix into it, etc. The bus driver confuffled the whole thing. We had street supervision, whatever they're called, coming in, and he said to me, "Don't make this an ethnic thing." And the bottom line is, it is an ethnic thing. I was on an M3 at 190th Street in the pouring rain. He did exactly what I asked him to do on directions from the MTA. And then I got on a bus. Exactly.
I'm missing the word you used. Don't make this a what?
Kerfuffle. Oh, don't make it an ethnic thing.
Ah.
It's always an ethnic thing. Yesterday afternoon, I'm getting on a bus, and everyone's screaming at me in Spanish. There's an empty bus behind us. Well, that empty bus driver's not going to pick me up just because,
It's always an ethnic thing because everybody has ethnicity, right?
Well, it's always an ethnic thing when they're screaming at you in Spanish.
I get Russians.
Calling you things that your mother would be upset about.
Deborah, do you know?
Of course I do.
Oh, Deb.
Of course I
And I get cursed by the Russians.
Ken, you have something?
More old
Yeah, I'll get
business.
you, Mr. Riggs.
More old business on buses. Bus stop announcements, I'm continuing to observe drivers that are not making bus stop announcements. They see a guy with a white cane, they're concerned about me, but nobody else. And like yesterday also, one of the drivers, his announcements were one syllable, not speaking English very clearly, and suddenly he just said, so I think that
Do you think that the system was malfunctioning, or the driver was just not enunciating?
the driver was not enunciating for sure. And I think the drivers need more training to say the next stop will be 44th, not 44th. In other words, they have to get the attention of the listener before they mention the important stuff. So I think that there's more need for training. And I'm wondering, has there been a recent survey? I know for years we used to check the percentage of compliance, and it was very low, and the federal court responding to my suit said they had to get it up over 90%. Do we have any recent surveys?
I think it's periodic. I haven't seen it
I haven't seen
recently,
any
but recently, but I think they do make a periodic check. So
Okay, I'd
I'll
like to
look
see
for
that statistic, and I think we need to talk to them about how to train the drivers better.
Yeah, yeah. No. No. They put unrecognized, just, yeah, mystery riders, undercover riders.
Yeah.
Mr. X?
I'll hold it, because the mic's got a back feed. Go ahead.
Okay. I told you 6 months ago today, I told a male guard why I was here, and he detained me. He re-detained me today, and his 3 flunkies just detained me.
You mean downstairs?
Yes, I told you 6 months ago today, if you hold a fence here, you have to tell these pigs what's happening. And you didn't listen. I'm telling you the same thing I told you 6 months ago today. Am I speaking to Andrew Albert, or am I speaking to Peter Calca, aka the devil's disciple? Hello?
We, downstairs always knows when our events are.
Well, I just submitted a copy of this to you. This is my copy. They ignored me. They detained me. And I told one of them, if you stop me from attending this event, you'll be brought up on charges. You're not discriminating me. You're not violating my rights.
Okay.
I'm not done yet.
Nobody's getting discriminated. Everybody
Okay.
can come to our meetings. Who
Eddie,
wants-
Yeah, well,
I'm not done yet. Okay, this is my
Go
time.
ahead.
You had your
Go
time,
ahead.
this is my time. I'm unhappy the Wes Craven lookalike was reappointed as a chair. As you know, Jimmy Flanagan, aka James Flanagan, looks like Sid Vicious, ambushed me downstairs in the customer service office, thus deactivated my reduced fare MetroCard under the Wes Craven lookalike. Over 5 years ago, April 27, 2012 to be exact. Was he there for me when I brought his attention? No. Was Thomas Cena there for me when I brought his attention? No. I'd like to know later that year on June 12th, the day before one of my sisters turned 40, the MTA held a public hearing at the Fashion Technology Institute, and certain individuals stopped me from attending because the board members had a restrainer against me. Where was the Wes Craven lookalike? Where was the King Kong Bundy lookalike? Hello?
The board members never have anything against any public speaker.
Okay, I'm just going by what I was told. So I'm unhappy the Wes Craven lookalike was reappointed as the chair. Okay? It's been 16 years since I was stranded in Brooklyn, Greenpoint section. I mentioned the bus forums, the 2001 through 2012 bus forums, which were conducted by you, and I haven't received any compensation, no apology, nothing. That's inexcusable.
okay, yeah, I mean,
How does
if
downstairs
you,
not know when our meetings are?
they do know where our meetings are. If we know you're coming, we'll put you on the list, which you should
Okay.
be able to pick up a.
To me, it doesn't matter if you don't know if I'm coming.
Yeah,
If I show them this,
Well, then you're just gonna have to wait for somebody to come downstairs.
hold, wait.
No.
If I tell them, if I show them this,
Our meeting, our rules.
okay, but I'm saying, if I show them this, it shouldn't be a problem.
But let me ask you,
If I have to be escorted, tell me before time. Don't keep me in a suspense.
let me find something out. Bill,
Yeah.
we can't ever know who of the public is deciding to come to our meeting, correct?
There are people that we do not know unless they tell us.
And if they don't tell us and they come downstairs and they say, I'm here to attend the Transit
Then
Riders
then
Council.
someone has to come down and
Okay,
physically
so
go
that's
down
the
and
rule
let
for
them in.
everybody. You're not being singled out.
Okay, but I should have been told I had to be escorted before time.
Well, it's on our agenda, we say that please call beforehand so we can put you on the list and make it easier for you to
Okay,
get through.
that still doesn't explain what happened to me today, also 6 months ago today. What happened today is worse than what happened 6 months ago today.
And what happened exactly? You were told what?
As I said earlier today, Eddie, I told him, showed the mail guard this paper. I just submitted a copy to you. I told him this is why I'm here. And he detained me. That's what he did 6 months ago today. This time, he relied on his flunkies for outside interference. So it's basically the Bobby Heenan family versus the junkyard dog. You understand what I'm saying?
Is it a different
It may not
rule?
have been, it may not have been communicated well down there, but what they did is they called up to our office and asked somebody to come down.
And
And
someone
that's what
did.
we did.
Thus detain me in the process, thus detain me like a refugee.
You know, I mean,
Sounds like you're not
the
saying
3
it's
minute,
everybody.
I don't think. a
Okay,
3
they don't
minute-
have to detain me if I tell them why I'm here.
But you
All they have to do is read the fine bold print. If they don't know how to read, they shouldn't be here.
Mr. X, everyone has to be escorted up. That's the rule.
Okay, fine.
We don't make that rule.
Okay, fine. But I'm saying if I show them this and they can't read it
That's,
and they can't dig it like Shaft, they shouldn't be here.
If you show them that, you still have to be escorted up.
Okay, fine, but they shouldn't detain me.
Okay.
They shouldn't ignore me if I show them this. Because when I show him this, he didn't know what he was reading. If he doesn't know what he's reading, he shouldn't be here.
What does he have in his hand, by the way? What is that?
I think it's our meeting notice with a Google map on it.
I have the paper in front of me.
What is
He
it?
has the website that shows the TRC meeting.
Okay.
12
And
PM,
then-
20th floor headquarters, for the record.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll talk to downstairs again.
Yeah.
We'll
But it is,
figure it
it's
out.
the same treatment for everybody, and since we can't know who's coming, that's why they have to be
Yeah,
escorted
I
up.
mean, if you can tell us in advance
So,
you're coming,
Aunt-
we'll make sure you get in.
Drew, why don't you just, it's two things. You call, if you know you're coming to the meeting, you call our office. If you do not, if you aren't sure you're coming and you show up, then you will have to be
Be
escorted up,
Yeah,
period.
and maybe that should be on our public notices.
It is, we do.
Both of those things are on there?
Yeah, we,
Okay. Yeah, I see it. I see it. All right, anything else? Edith, after you swallow.
I just have to say, I have been on Ocean Lexington platform. When I got there, I'm sorry, when I got there,
It said 2 minutes. The announcement went from 2 to 6 to 8. The person in the booth was having a screaming fight, basically, with a passenger. If it had said 20-plus minutes when I got there, I would have gone out and I would have wheeled down here.
Oh,
This
I've-
is
I've seen that.
ridiculous.
I've seen that happen. It's
20 plus
obviously
minutes.
something happened to one of those trains en route, and then it keeps growing and growing and growing. On the other hand, I've seen it say 12 minutes, and then 2 minutes later, it's down to 3 minutes, and then in 1 minute, the train is there. I think these things can be fooled on the A division. The good news is, on the
Mr.
new B division
Lexington.
countdown clocks, they can't be fooled.
Okay, and then this morning though, 30 minutes for an M3 from 181st to 190th. 5 M3s went downtown, 1 M3 went uptown, out of service. Now this is ridiculous. It was bus number that finally, Bill? 6719. It finally came in at 9:03. M3.
You didn't have buses for 30 minutes before 9:03. Okay.
Basically, yeah.
And give me the stop again that you had.
I was getting on at 181st northbound. This is a perfect example of what I have been calling for how many years? Buses obviously were turning around at 168.
Yeah, short.
Obviously, we're being short-turned.
Yeah.
Problem with the M3 is they stop at 168 or they stop at the top of Fort George Hill. I really find that rather discriminatory for us as passengers. It was very interesting yesterday at the accessory hearing when whoever of all the crazy speakers said, did you notice the LIRR people got their rebate? How many years do we been putting up with this crap?
That was a,
Not the only people that.
I don't think they were crazy
made that
yesterday. I
point.
thought that almost every
Well,
speaker
some
was
of them-
really
no,
good.
No, excuse me, some were. The person who wanted the driver to stop at the store
Yeah,
because she was having a diabetes attack.
that's,
Very funny, because I actually saw my endocrinologist yesterday. I was telling her this story. She goes like, that's the problem with the doctor. They should be told to carry stuff. Well, yeah, they should also be a lot of other things. But no, there were people like Dustin saying he doesn't want taxis, please.
Yep.
I don't know who's paying him off.
yeah, that was,
But that was
he
an
knew that he
interesting
was going to
one.
get some blowback for that.
I
But
didn't-
he spoke well, he was good.
but, you know, this-
Everybody heard that discussion loud and clear. There was quite a board discussion about that.
Well, it's interesting because if you read AM New York, which was totally wrong in a number of facts, there was no discussion. There was no 2 hours of people
Vincent Barone.
testifying at the board meeting on this topic.
It's not like Vincent Barone to get that wrong, but was he the writer, do you know?
I think it was.
Yeah.
All right. We will report this bus issue this morning and see what the heck happened. And then we're going to go to well, this is new. Mr. X, new business? New. Good.
You haven't held any bus forums since April 25, 2012. That bus forum was held here. Do you intend to hold future bus forums? Do you intend to hold NYCTRC president forums? You need to hold them regularly. You held them regularly at one time, then you stopped. I don't know why.
I can answer part of that. Do you want to? Yeah. We're waiting for, instead of acting presidents, the real presidents to be named, so then we will continue to do those forums. Absolutely. Everybody's acting right now.
Acting out,
That too.
as far as I'm concerned.
No, we would love to do that. They got their hands full now with the Long Island stuff and with everything. Once permanent people are named, we fully intend to have those forums again.
Okay, and also regarding the two incidents I mentioned earlier today, when am I getting compensation for my loss? Particularly the 2001 loss.
Loss of?
I say, how well you comprehend, Andy? Am I speaking to Andy or am I speaking to Peter? Hello. Earlier today, I said
I had
it's been
Peter's
16
money.
years since I was stranded in Brooklyn, Greenpoint section. I mentioned that the 2001 through 2012 forums, bus forums, which were conducted by you, and I received compensation for my loss. No apology for the MTA, which has money thrown away, or the city
When you
transportation
When you
department.
say stranded, are you saying no
I was
train?
stranded on Manhattan Avenue, uptown side of Huron Street. As I stated at those bus forums, the downtown, Manhattan Avenue downtown
Greenpoint
side
Avenue stands,
was,
in other words.
was closed due to construction. The uptown side was fine. There were no post signs that former bus are saying the B61 bus was running McGinnis Boulevard in both directions. So I stood on Manhattan Avenue at Huron Street like a penguin.
So there was no, I don't want to.
No
This is-
notification. How long?
Yeah, but why?
You understand what I'm saying?
Why would you not take the one direction of train that there was and continue your journey?
Excuse me. I chose to take the 61 bus to Queens Plaza and then go home from there. Okay? If that bus was running on McGinnis Boulevard, which, as you know, is east from Manhattan in both directions,
Yep.
I should have been told before time, not after. Forcing me to keep me stranded
Okay, so one
in
I'm not.
freezing cold weather like a penguin doesn't
what I'm
help.
not- What I'm not understanding is why you think that notification is the Transit Riders Council obligation as opposed to, say, New York
That's
City
not what I
Transit.
said, Andy. I should have received compensation for my loss because, as I said, I stood on Manhattan Avenue at Huron Street. There was a former bus stop there, like a penguin. Nobody told me what was happening. Real penguins, like the late Bert Meredith, enjoy the cold weather. This penguin doesn't enjoy the cold weather.
I don't either, actually.
Okay, and I also stated on April 27 and June 12, 2012. Okay, let me repeat myself. April 27, downstairs.
This is old business, not new business, by the way.
Okay, but I still told, I still asked, when am I getting compensated for my loss? What James Flanagan did to me on April 27th downstairs was inexcusable. And what his compadres did to me at the Fashion Technology Institute later that year on June 12, the day before when my sister turned 40, was also inexcusable.
Okay.
I want compensation. It's that simple.
We hear you.
And I want it now. Not next year, not later, not next month. I want it now. I should have gotten it
Give me your
by
mic,
now.
okay? We're gonna go
Okay.
to our speaker who,
Well, we need to do one important thing,
Oh, we
is
do?
just elect officers
oh,
for the year.
it is on there, isn't it?
It is on there. So we're passing out a ballot. We had a suggestion that the existing slate be nominated last meeting, and I guess the floor would be open for additional nominations for,
I have a question.
yes.
When was Marisol last at a meeting?
I don't know. I would have to, it's been I think she did
Not last month.
She did not come to
Certainly.
last month. I think it was the month before.
Month
I think-
before,
I think it
yeah.
was. I believe it was April.
Law that requires an attendance record to serve on the,
There is no bylaw that requires that, but that's a factor that members can take into account when they vote.
I would like to suggest there be a bylaw change.
We can do that.
A member of the executive committee is allowed to be so frequently absent. Look at our attendance today. Do we even have a quorum?
Yes,
do.
we do.
Oh, I'm the quorum?
No, we actually had one before.
We have
but-
6 out of 10
but
here.
we have 6 out of 10, we have 6 out of 10 members.
Calling that for, okay.
Sorry, I'm calling for a bylaws
And I
review.
second that.
Yeah, but you're not giving the proposed language.
Yeah,
Are you-
if you want.
Okay, I propose that the bylaws be changed, amended, thank you, to have an attendance requirement
Okay.
For officers,
for officers and board members. Okay, so we meet monthly, correct?
we do.
I believe that if you've missed 3 or more board meetings in a year, you should be up for a speaking to, I guess, and then a consideration of revocation.
I'm actually about to send a note to Marisol and Scott. I think those are the two folks who have missed the. I know he was, but there was a gap before that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Use your mic, Bert.
Yeah, have to look at the actual attendance figures. We should have some numbers to talk about.
Right.
Deborah sent me-
Secondly, there should be
Right.
some clause for unexpected reasons for not attending.
Right.
Yes.
Or
There is a.
Emergencies.
Medical and others, yes.
Okay, yeah.
I mean,
Like, for instance, today, Trudy is having, rod-
Had surgery on
actually
Tuesday.
had surgery on Tuesday for putting rods in her arm, and Bill Guild is having, or yesterday, I guess, was having the battery on his pacemaker changed. Yeah, these are medical, obviously.
Can I nominate something, please? I'd like to
Can you can't do anything until we've worked on Edith's proposal yet. Yes, that has not been adjudicated yet.
Then would you like me to
I think the gist of it is that,
propose that we examine it and come back and consider it? That was really what I was asking.
Yeah, if we come up with a proposal, what we would, it requires to be read at 2 meetings and then be passed. So it would be, it would probably be July and then September.
I'm just saying
Yeah.
that we need
I
to
think you're
consider this.
I think it is right, but I think the executive committee should get together and go over it and get some firm facts, find out other organizations' rules, and come up with a proposal.
I mean, I'm just throwing the idea out. I wasn't expecting.
no, it's absolutely fair. Absolutely fair. Yes? Edith has made the motion.
Then I second it.
I knew that.
Yeah. So
I knew, I was very.
is that I mean, is this a motion to have the executive committee develop proposed language along the lines of what you've said today, and I don't know, what are we moving?
Next month's meeting.
Okay, I mean, I could,
We should have a report on unattended.
But we want to draft it correctly to disperse it, so. Yeah, you're proposing a bylaw change that members of the executive committee or officers not miss 3 or more meetings in a given calendar year, or not
Probably-
be considered
probably,
for
yeah.
those.
That we as entity should have the same rule.
yeah, there is a rule, it's a little bit more,
So there's a rule for general members.
there is a rule for general members, it's not quite 3, it's
Whatever.
more, but yeah.
Right, I'm just throwing
It's
out.
two in a row, it's more than 2 in a row, and I forget, I think it's 6 in a 12-month period.
It's like the lotto, you got to be
I
in it to
believe
win it.
what it is. Yeah. Yes, we do.
We do.
There is a bylaw provision.
But not for offices and
For
board.
members, but yeah, it's more than 3, though.
And I think it's fair. The point raised is very fair. So we will draft this and distribute it and discuss
Okay.
again next month. Is that the idea?
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's,
we need to get to
okay,
our
well, yeah.
speaker, folks.
We do need to,
Oh,
we do need to vote.
We need to vote.
Excuse me, can I did mention earlier, I'd like to nominate myself. Oh, thank you.
Okay.
Carrizo.
And yourself is being nominated for what
Is
position?
it, no, not your position, Andrew, you're too good, but not Bert either, the executive committee.
So we will write, is there a second? Well, there is, obviously, so
Yeah.
Chris Greif.
Yeah, we've always allowed
Nomination
nominations to
from
be
the
made from
floor.
the floor. This was proposed at the last meeting, but we've always allowed nominations from the floor up to the vote. Yeah. So if people can vote, and maybe we can move, we'll collect those, and then we'll have a.
Yes, you're voting for
You vote for
3 on
yes,
executive.
I'm sorry. Yeah,
Not for 4.
We did not. If anyone needs to revise, please let us know. But you would vote for 3 on executive committee, I'm sorry. Unclear.
Yes.
Want to move on to
let's,
our presentation, and then?
Yes, so you may have heard at various committee meetings and board meetings of the success of the new Q Second Avenue subway line. While there have been some hiccups on the line, such as when I tried to take it last week and there was a power failure and there were police guarding the entrance and it couldn't get in, it has been by and large very, very successful. There are numbers that were presented to us to show that, particularly at local stations, and particularly the stations that parallel the Second Avenue line on the Lex line, that they're actually taking riders from the Lex line. Obviously, it's not people coming from the Bronx, but it's Upper East Siders and the like that are utilizing the new line. So now we have Jay Krantz of New York City Transit for rail network planning, who will give us some more definitive detail on the success of the Second Avenue subway. And you may recall that after Winton Habersham told how great it was going and that there would be an extra round trip added this fall, I said, wow, after such a buildup, all we get is 1 additional round trip. And Judy McLean said, there are some N's and some R's that are actually running up to 96th and 2nd Avenue. They're marked Q, but they're actually coming along the Sea Beach line and or the R line. So it is a success, and now we're going to hear how much, I guess. So Jay, you're on.
All right. So, thank you very much. I'm glad to be here. And as Andrew pointed out, it's very nice to come give a presentation about adding service. And good news for a change. I've been doing lots of presentations on the L train lately. And there's a nice change of pace. So yeah, I'm here to talk about a little more detail on what's been going on with Second Avenue. In opening week, our initial ridership was 125,000 people on average on a weekday for the first week. That has been going up steadily. We are now, as of mid-May, up to 176,000, and actually on individual days, we're over 180,000 as well. And this shows how that ridership has been growing, which is more or less how we expected it. We never expected everyone to show up on opening week. And the growth is slowing down, but it's still continuing. You'll see in this chart, which shows basically week by week how ridership has changed. You know, some weeks are lower because we had some weather. There was a spring break in there. But overall, the progress has been steady. Individually.
Just one quick question.
Sure.
Sorry to interrupt. Where you have these dips for snow, is the inference that people didn't travel at all that day, or they took a different route? Or
Oh, they didn't travel, the system
they
wide.
stayed home?
Oh, yeah.
So the dips are on other lines as well?
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah. Yeah, same with spring break. On a station-by-station basis, 72nd Street is the largest of the stations in terms of ridership. And that's because, for those of you who know the area, 72nd Street serves both the residential market of the Upper East Side, and additionally, it serves the hospital market. So you have people, at that station, you have people entering in the morning and you have people exiting in the morning. The other stations also have healthy ridership. The 63rd and Lex station, those numbers include people who are transferring between the F and the Q, as well as F riders, well, all riders who use the new 3rd Avenue entrance, as they're getting a benefit as well. So, not just Q riders are benefiting from the new service, but people on the Lex are seeing improvements. So, as Andrew discussed, on a weekday basis, we're seeing 26% reductions in ridership entries at the 4 Lexington Avenue stations on the Upper East Side, 68th, 77th, 86th, and 96th. And that reduction is even greater during the peak hour, which is when we need it most. And that it's about 40% in the AM peak hour, 8 to 9 a.m. And as a result, for the first time in my career at transit, and I think everyone's career, we're seeing all the Lexington Avenue services within the board-adopted passenger guidelines. The 4, 5, and 6 in both directions are all within guideline, which is not to say individual trains are not crowded or over guideline, but our guidelines are based on an hourly average, and on an average, they're all under 100% of the guideline, which is a very astonishing thing, given how crowded it used to be.
Do you have any indication, and I guess you really wouldn't unless you did a survey of ridership, but do you think some people are switching because they can get a seat on the new line versus getting on a train that was already crowded coming from the Bronx, for instance?
People are riding the queue to get a seat. Our sense is that's not the case because the queues actually are quite heavily loaded. So at 96th Street, you can get a seat.
Yeah.
I think it's just more convenient for a number of people, for people who live east of 2nd Avenue, or people who work on the west side. It's just simply a faster trip. And even actually, this is the surprising thing, if you look at the travel times, if you're starting at 96th and 3rd and you're going to Union Square, you would think the Lex would be faster, but actually if you go on Trip Planner, you'll see the queue is just as fast. Even though it wraps around, it's a fast run, and the 6 is not always so fast.
It actually does have
People who need accessible, who might possibly fight their way onto a Lexington, are most certainly going over to the queue.
I mean, certainly the
It's an issue
stations
within
are,
the community.
certainly the stations themselves are much more comfortable.
They're accessible.
Yeah, exactly.
Unlike the Lexington.
Right.
Can
Right.
Yeah, how do you count passengers, which, many of which have come into stations on other lines all around the city? How do you know how many of them
How many transferred at 63rd
gone
Street?
to queue? Well, wherever.
Well, for Second Avenue, the three main stations, it's pretty easy because there are no transfers to be made. You simply count the MetroCard entries at those stations. And we basically assume if you enter at that station, you exit at that station on your return trip. Or if you entered in the evening, then
But
you
isn't
exit
a
in the
large
morning.
portion of the people on the train coming from other lines? Other places in the city?
It's a small portion, like I said. So if you think about it, if you look at the first three stations, if you're entering them in the morning, we get you.
Yeah,
And
no,
let's
I'm
say
talking
you-
about people that are
If
going
you exited
home,
them, then we probably get you on the return trip. The exception would be people who, say, are transferring from the F, from Queens to the Q southbound at 63rd Street. Then we would never see you at the three new stations. And so at Lexington Avenue, we've had our staff go out and do visual observations of people making that transfer, and we've been counting them, which is not an exhaustive study, but it's pretty good.
estimate.
It's an estimate, right, as are many things in the system. So with the reduction in ridership on the Lex, we are in fact seeing performance improvements on the Lex. That's the one place in the system where we have good news to report. So particularly on the 6 train, because the 6 train, obviously, 68th, 77th, and 96th Street are local stations. Weight assessment has improved by 3% on the 6th, first quarter versus fourth quarter. First quarter 2017 versus fourth quarter 2016. Dwell times, because there are fewer people trying to cram onto the trains, the dwell times have reduced on all the services, especially the 6 train. And as a result, we've been able to quantify that running times on the 6 in particular are measurably reduced, about a minute in the morning on the 6 on the southbound direction, and then 1.5 minutes in actually both directions in the PM. So that's been a positive development.
So if you were a former Lexington line user headed for the west side, and you transferred at Grand Central for the 7 or the shuttle, have you seen I'll use Beverly's favorite term, concomitant drop on ridership on those because you no longer need to transfer if you're coming from the Upper East Side?
We've been doing checks at the shuttle. It was a little, we're not seeing as much as we expected the shuttle. There may have been on the 7, bigger reductions on the 7, where we didn't have as
That'll change during the Penn Station work.
a lot of things will change, but
Yeah. You could.
right. There are a lot of places,
Yep.
that was a big transfer as well.
You could change at 51st and Lex too, for that matter. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So, but that also shows that we have reductions. We even have reductions for people continuing to ride the Lex south of 42nd Street. People say going to Union Square. We're seeing not as much as at 86th Street. 86th Street is the peak load point on the Express, and 68th Street is the peak load point in the local, and that's where we're seeing the biggest reductions. But we're seeing reductions up and down the line in Manhattan.
The trip planner for 86th Street to Union Square would show the Lex faster than the Q.
That is probably true, yes. But again, it depends on where you start.
Right.
If you put yourself at 86 and 2nd, it should, I actually don't know what its trip planner says. Trip planner and Google also give different directions on occasion. So, and again, we're seeing performance improvements up and down the Lex. So we're very encouraged by that. And then Andrew pointed out, because ridership has been so healthy, we are adding service in the fall, which means in November. So we'll be getting one additional southbound trip in the morning and one additional northbound trip in the evening. And actually, as of now in the morning, the average passengers per car on the Q train have been, 131 passengers per car, which is below what we consider our maximum guideline when you have frequent service. We also have a different set of frequency-based guidelines when there's a little bit less service. We have a lower target to which is 125. So with this extra train, we will now be under that lower guideline of 125, or we'll have 119 per car on average. So we'll be within that guideline. And then northbound will be well within guideline as well. So we're excited to be adding service. And, oh, I'm sorry, Edith? I mean, on the track?
I wanted to know if you have a capacity figure as to how many trains you could actually run at maximum.
More than we need. I can tell you that for phase 2, we're projecting right now we'll run, I think, 19 trains per hour. Some of that has to do with the terminal capacity. I'm not entirely sure if 96th Street can process 19 trains per hour currently, but there's no need to at this point. But the track can handle that much, yes.
Do you have statistics on how the the service between the N and the W has changed? Because we seem to have lost a lot of service by losing the Q. Let me say, I'm forgetting. Yeah, by losing the Q beyond 59th Street, the W is not a satisfactory substitute.
The W, we do schedule as many Ws as we scheduled Qs during the peak hours, and middays as well.
That's the key, peak hours.
There are a couple. Some ends go up to Second Avenue, that's correct, but because we're running as many trains into Astoria as we can in the morning. Well, I mean.
And are you the person to ask why between 6:45 and 7:30, 2 or 3 empty Ws go racing through the 59th Street station and refuse to pick up passengers?
Is this northbound or southbound? Northbound in the evening?
Queensbound, in other words.
Queensbound in the morning from. Yeah, they will probably. I wasn't aware that they're light. I'll check with.
And there are huge crowds of people saying there, and these W's still.
And those are Queensbound passengers that are not getting.
And it's all the workers that's. Can you excuse me, Mike?
Sharon, use your mic.
So I can keep it on.
It's construction workers and medical workers, and there are crowds, and those empty trains go racing through.
And don't stop.
And no, they say not in service. Sometimes they stop, but they don't pick people up.
Are they consecutive empty trains?
Well, Bradley, what I did, we have all the statistics from when we did the survey down there, and I'm there 10 mornings a month, so I know it anyway. But it was part of our survey.
And if I can just add to that just really quickly, that like this morning, I noticed that there in the express tracks in Astoria, with some of those trains, I saw a few of them actually going to Astoria Boulevard or to Ditmars, and so they weren't picking up people. They were just, I think it was probably those same trains that are being rushed to the other end to pick up.
That might have been
Manhattan.
an on-the-fly adjustment RTO did to get trains back on the schedule. So
Yeah, there were trains on the middle track, empty.
Sure.
What actually is the headway during the day on the queue,
The queue runs.
allegedly?
The queue runs every 8 minutes in the middle of the day.
Monday,
Mm-hmm.
I sat on the platform through 7 trains going the other direction. Nothing going to Queens. I was at 42nd Street. I was trying to get to 63rd and Lexington, where I then couldn't get back in because the cards machine was jammed, and there's no way of getting in unless someone will open the gate for me. And the Lexington people will not open the gate.
Well, that's a problem.
You know, other passengers will not push the gate open when the gate will not work. And
The booth agent would not open the gate.
there's no booth agent.
Yeah.
I mean, there was always an MTA issue that said where there's an elevator access, there is a 24-hour booth. This does not have one. Now, I object to having to go out and wheel to Lexington. I was at 3rd Avenue and 63rd.
Mm-hmm.
And I now have to go back to Lexington to get into the subway. When it's not, it's not worth the effort.
There's an intercom there, I believe, isn't there? And
The
it wasn't
intercom is-
working?
The intercom is inside.
Oh, so the elevator from the street.
I had come down from the street,
Mhm.
and I was now going into the mezzanine level.
Uh-huh. You couldn't get him. All right. Well, we can follow up on that. Yeah. Yeah.
And I agree with the rest of them, because one thing I like to add in also is very disturbing. You have all these W's that the ones that Bradley and Sharon say, they come out of Canal Street Yard. Why can't you just start the W's, the ones that come out of Canal, to take those passengers up? It packs up, it delays the R trains. I can tell you that with my own eyes looking. It's ridiculous. It's not right for the customers to wait for a long time, because the end's on the express by then, and you only have an R. The next R comes in, it's full. Next R, max full. The W should start at Canal Street, go up to Queens, not just going flying away or flying back to Canal Street Yard when it comes to evening. You have some W's that go to my end of Brooklyn, Stewart, Swell. I'm a little caffeine like.
Two other people live there too.
Yeah, and right now I'm just saying who they are. Forgive me. The main thing is you have some W's ending at 86th Street and
Right.
on the end. Sometimes they end at Bay Parkway, whatever. The bottom line is you have some of them saying non-in-service, which I know where they're going. They're going to Canal Street Relay, which is City Hall. Why can't you have them say Canal Street W's? Because it will take some of the customers to get to 14th Street, because a lot of them like to transfer to the L train at this time. There is got to be something with the W's, because all these empty trains are wasting away going downtown, and people need to get on a train. I travel at night, sometimes to meetings, and Edith can vouch on when sometimes we seen one time so many non-in-service trains. And I agree with Sharon on this, because the 4, 5, and 6, if a person needs to get to work to Queens, they're going to be late to work, and it's not right. It's so strange. And the second strange thing is, why do we have Q trains running like an N train going one way and it turns back into an N? It's confusing the customers because they think there's something's wrong with the Brighton line. And I said, no, there's nothing wrong with the Brighton line. But now I'm hearing they call it on the radio the Nancy Quincy, which can we just call them Nancy N trains that are going to 96 and 2nd. It shouldn't take that long to change a sign to 96 and 2nd. It's really confusing the customers, because when you see a decal, they're thinking something's wrong with the Brighton line. They see 2 Qs. Which one is the real Q? Really, it's the N.
So the decision was, because of the way we had to move car equipment around, and in order to get the most services possible down 2nd Avenue, to have some N trains run up to 96th and 2nd, and then go back down as ends. And the decision was made, and if you didn't see this, then we'll follow up on it, but the decision was made that we should sign it, if it's half an N and half a Q, we should sign it based on its destination. So that if you're on a Sea Beach, you're a Sea Beach train, you're going to 96th and 2nd, we're going to call that a Q. And if you're from 96th and 2nd, but you're going down the N line, we're going to call that an N. So in the field, I saw that a couple times. They were calling these N's Qs, so there may have been some confusion. I've been out there, and I found that the first day, a lot of people didn't want to get on the N. By the second week, no one hesitated anymore.
To answer that question you just said, a lot of customers think they don't, maybe, I forget when I say this is where the passengers don't think one-on-one. The Q and N are both similar trains. They're going to go straight on the express track. They're going to run express after 34th Street to their normal route.
Right.
Some conductors like to use their little toy button, which I call it, their little microphone. They have to add something else, and I'm looking at them like, don't say anything. Let them look at the computer screen. It says 57th, Times Square, 34th, 14th. Don't say anything. Just like in 96, just say, customers, please be advised, this is an N train that's going via the 2nd Avenue, which it does say, which a lot of people do get on now, because one conductor he agreed with me when I said, why should I say anything? Everybody's getting on the train. It's full. It gets really full, even when the N comes in, with the Q comes in. I've seen it. 2nd Avenue line, A lot of people have been going to that line because not just going to the hospital, but a lot of restaurants are there.
Right.
Since you've been doing a lot of good advertisement about it, and you kept your word. So I'm just asking if there's possible that, can we please just try to get the upgrade to change it back to an N, saying N to 96th Street, because...
Well, there is an additional problem, and that is not all of the, and this is virtually all R160s that we're talking about, they have not all been programmed to have the 96th Street, 2nd Avenue destination sign on it yet. The next time they're reprogrammed, I assume that will...
Well, but we don't want an N, if it's going to 96th Street, we do not want to call it an N train, because then people who are going to Astoria, if they see an N, they get on it, and now they're on Astoria, and now they're on the Upper East Side.
Then can we call the Q trains the extra Qs, because people are getting a little confused in my end of Brooklyn, because...
What you can do, I think, is do what Jay just suggested, but have the conductor come on live every now and then and say, customers, be advised, this is an N train running to 96th Street and 2nd Avenue. And
Assuming the PA is working.
well, if they're not working on the R160s, we got a real problem. Those are new cars, relatively new cars.
I mean, in this situation, there's going to be some confusion either way, so we think this is the best
We
compromise.
want to come out opposed to this additional service for the 2nd Avenue line because it's obviously necessary. We just want it signed.
I would like to say, though, I do oppose the concept of going away from the recorded announcements to the announcements being made in the individual trains. Let's be honest. The quality of the announcement, the understandability of the announcements, be it accents, be it whatever, at least with the canned ones. You have a sort of eidetic memory when you start hearing it. You know what that message is.
Yeah.
You know, you don't.
We're delayed because of train traffic ahead.
No, excuse me. I mean, actually, yesterday morning, it took me 50 minutes from 175 to 145. I would have liked any announcement. I was sitting at 145th Street. I can't get out. I want any announcement. I want to know there's still someone alive in that booth. I don't think that's an unrealistic. And the announcement worked from 34th Street and 14th. That was it.
No, point taken. So, anyway, we're nearing the end here, but as we do with all lines, we'll be monitoring ridership conditions both on the queue and all the related lines throughout the system. And another point to make is that while the Lex is now currently under guideline, there's still a lot of development out there, both in the immediate future and long-term. East Harlem's being rezoned, East Midtown is being rezoned, a whole bunch of new office buildings are being constructed. The Bronx is growing, so we expect that there will be continued pressure on the Lex, which is all the more reason to continue with Phase 2 of 2nd Avenue, which will, again, offer relief to the rest of the Lexington Avenue line and bring direct benefits to Bronx residents, as the vast majority of the people who benefit from Phase 2 will be from the Bronx.
You were aware that there was a discussion at the board the other day about Phase 2 and the location of the 125th Street station, and one of the people giving the presentation said, we're not sure yet whether 125th Street will be a 2-track or a 3-track terminal. And I said, a 3-track terminal implies the train's not going any further. Why would you have 3 tracks there? You don't have 3 at 96th Street now. And, you know, Chair Ferrer's ear said, that woke me up because obviously there's a lot of folks that would like to see it go on to the Bronx. There's actually some Manhattan politicians that would like to see it go further west in Manhattan and further north in Manhattan before it goes to the Bronx. But in any event, do you have any inkling of a 2 or 3-track terminal yet?
It's something that's still being looked at, what works best operationally. There are construction issues. It would be much, much less impactful at 125th Street if you go with the 2-track.
I would think.
The cavern is much smaller, so you can, ideally, then you'll be able to go.
Do you have any?
The 3-track service delivery has some concerns, but we think the 2-track will work as well. So, but that's being investigated. There's
Do you have any indication that people who now are in the 103rd Street Lexington Station neighborhood of East Harlem are walking to 96th and 2nd so that they can get a seat versus getting on at 103rd and Lex and possibly having this.
We are seeing some reductions at 103rd. I think it's in something more the ballpark of about 6-7% compared to the 26% from on the other stations. So yes, we are also seeing some people taking the M15 SBS down from further up and getting off. We're actually seeing an increase in people getting off the bus at 96th Street to get on to transfer to the queue.
Interesting.
So
Very interesting. Very interesting. Did you have something? Did you have your hand up?
Yes, I'm sorry. What avenue is the queue supposedly running on at 125th?
So it goes up Second Avenue, continues up Second Avenue to 125th Street, and effectively makes the left, and then so it'll connect to Lexington
So it
Avenue.
is connecting with, okay, that was where you were losing me.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I guess I thought that was common
Actually,
knowledge, but
if you look at the map, it's not going all the way to 125th Street and turning west. It's making that turn prior. After the 116th Street station, it sort of makes the northwesterly loop a little bit.
technically it's cutting the corner. Yeah,
Yeah, it's cutting corners there.
but it's not. Well,
The idea is to
this-
connect both the Lexington line and the Metro North Station at Park Avenue.
and there'll be.
It is a long block in between, that's where I was trying to figure out.
Right. So actually, there is no station on 125th and 2nd. The stations will be 106th and 2nd, 116 and 2nd, and 125th and Lex.
Amazing. 106th, which is the wide street, actually gets a station finally, as compared to the narrower 103rd, 110th Street. Yeah.
The NYCHA houses will say, oh, I can finally go to Coney Island.
They can do it now, it's just a little more difficult.
One seat ride, yeah.
Yeah. Anybody have anything else to ask of Jay and the Second Avenue? Mr. X?
As far as I'm concerned, the Second Avenue Stubway is actually the Second Avenue Stubway. As I stated over the years, you should have 4 tracks, 2 express, 2 local. It should run on Second Avenue between the 2 ends. Okay, I don't know why it's running off Second Avenue above 116th Street. I don't know why you have only 2 tracks. You turn into a stubway, as far as I'm concerned. It's not alleviating the IRT Lexington line congestion with 2 tracks only. I don't know where you got that idea from. And you should keep it on Second Avenue, since it's the Second Avenue Stubway, not the Lexington Stubway. But if you want to divert it off Second Avenue, let's put it on the Lexington Avenue, under an 8-division line, under a station that has 2 levels. That's fine with me, but you're making a big mistake if you're doing it that way. But I see how well the MTA, which stands for money thrown away, comprehends.
All right, well, thank
I've seen it in the last 16 years. They comprehend real well, as opposed to wording it well like El DeBarge.
Of course, Phase 3, if we live that long, takes it south of 63rd and 2nd down to East Midtown along Second Avenue. You're aware of that, of course,
Just don't
if the funding ever comes in.
It's loud
Yeah.
enough.
Eddie, you weren't listening.
I was.
Neither were your compadres over the years.
Thank
You didn't build it my way. I submitted
I didn't build it at all.
a diagram to your cousin Douglas Sussman years back. How long? So I don't know what you're implying. I submitted a diagram to him. Unfortunately, I did it. I drew it improperly, but I submitted a diagram, and my diagram is different from yours. Hello.
Okay. Jay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Very, very interesting as always, and we hope ridership continues to grow, and there's a real need for Phase 2 and 3.
Okay.
Are we going back to new business again?
Yeah, we actually have to look at the election again. We do have, I think we have elections for the chair and vice chair. Obviously, the 2 incumbents are elected to that. For the executive committee, Stewart and Bill Guild have clear majorities. They were unanimous. We do have a tie for the 3rd position, between a 3-3 tie between Marisol and Chris. What Robert's rules says is we revote until we get a majority one way or the other. What I'm going to ask, which may be slightly out of order, but I think it's good efficiency, is anyone inclined to change their vote? If no one is inclined to change their vote, we will, and you don't have to say which way you voted. Yeah.
I think we would have to if nobody's inclined to change.
Yeah, so we would have to put it off. There's no reason to hold another vote if no one's inclined to change. Or would like, or no one would, let's not say inclined to change, no, anyone would like to revote today. If we don't have anybody who wants to revote today, we can move till next, I think.
Yes.
I think we should.
Only because we're missing 1/3 of our members.
I think we should just go to, I think then, if we, there's no sense in holding another vote, so we should wait until
Hopefully we'll have all 9 members.
our next meeting. Okay, so thank you.
New
Thank you,
business?
everybody.
New business?
Yes, Edith.
Okay.
Thanks, Stuart.
New sign in a subway elevator.
Folks, can we listen to Edith?
So, I mean, I've actually complained about this, but there was no discussion. Here goes. There's a sign in the Dyckman Street elevator that informs us for the one train that there are no downtown trains to this station. Take the A on Broadway. From Dyckman number 1, which is an accessible station, I guess they're sending you to Dyckman and Broadway for the one train, but since that's not accessible, where's
Broadway for the A train.
For the A train.
Yes.
Where's the accommodation? Am I supposed to wheel to 207th Street?
Does it give for specific hours or just days or?
It says 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. Monday through Friday, June 19th through 23rd, June 26th through 30th.
Oh, it's a fast track.
But this was exactly the issue about a month ago, and there was no signage. I question the ADA ramifications. First of all,
Is there an asterisk that says that
Nope.
one or more of these may not be accessible or
I really can't see that far. Hold on, let's see.
sometimes they?
Visit MTA info, and then it just says post, the dates to post and the locations to post.
And this is indictment on the one?
This is an indictment on the one. Big time violation. Come on, people. This is ridiculous.
I have seen numerous fast track posters which said one or more of these may not be accessible, and use this bus or something.
There is no bus.
I understand that, but I'm saying I've seen
There
it.
is no bus.
To guide you from an accessible number 1 at Dyckman to an inaccessible Dyckman and Broadway on the A train is ridiculous.
Well, yeah, I mean, this.
I mean, it's
totally
fine if you're
illegal
ambulatory,
under-
that would work for you maybe.
Yeah, it's
but-
totally illegal. And it's going to the feds. This is ridiculous.
Send,
I'm sending it to Bill right now.
yeah, please do.
Because, come on, people. It really doesn't look good.
No, and I don't even think it's legal, like you said.
It's not legal. What
They
can they do?
give you an accessible
They have to have a
alternative.
bus. They have to run a shuttle. There's no shuttle. There is no, there's
They're gonna
a
run
shuttle.
They're not even running it for the enhanced station stuff on 4th Avenue in Brooklyn.
They never ran a shuttle from Chambers to South Ferry. And how many years has that been?
Well, at least they had.
Stay tuned.
At least they had defense of a
Reopening the end
bus
of the
there.
month.
Excuse me?
At least they had defense of a bus there. Not a very good bus, but a
Yes.
bus.
Yeah. that-
No, because but it doesn't run 24/7, which is why they have
Right.
the accessoride. But
Yeah, right,
I mean,
it's overnight, that's the overnight.
right, in
yeah.
the overnight, and other than that, you basically have to wheel all the way to
Right.
to
Broadway,
Broadway
and take the
and wait
bus
for a
from there.
5.
5, yeah.
Does it say how many stations along the one this is affecting?
No, it doesn't at all. I mean, this is all it says. I'm going to go to 231st and see if this. Well, obviously, it has to be affecting 231st. I mean, the bottom line is the only accessible stations on the one above 96th Street are Dyckman and 231st.
125, no? Oh, it's just an
In
escalator.
what
That's right.
fantasy?
Yeah, I'm thinking it's an escalator, yeah.
That's, you know, an escalator,
Yep.
if it works.
All right, anything else? Matt?
Yeah, I tried to take a picture of an elevator sign on Wells Bay in Union Square that was going in the wrong direction. I couldn't get the picture on my phone. It wasn't operating properly. So somebody could go there, take a picture of it, appreciate it.
What's wrong with the sign?
It's going in the wrong direction because it's supposed to go this way and it's going this way. And it confuses me because
There's a
the
sign
elevator
on, wait,
winds
wait,
around.
there's a sign on the platform, a U sign.
It's an arrow. The arrow's going this way instead of going that way.
So is the sign upside down, or it just has the wrong direction arrow? The sign is upside down. Okay.
It's on the L platform?
For which train platform? The L. Near the elevator, where is the sign? Why don't you go back and try to get the picture again?
Yeah, it would help, that would help, that actually would help a lot if we had a picture.
Is it on the mezzanine level or on the platform?
Mezzanine level.
So it's on the mezzanine level.
Yeah, please try.
I think, if you could try to get a
All right,
picture, it
seeing
would
no
help us.
further business, we are adjourned. Have a happy July 4th, everyone.